In Kenya, political history has a habit of repeating itself. Not exactly, but closely enough that those who know the pattern can feel it coming. It was a moment that surprised the country.
Another round of applause for Baba Waki.
Two men who had spent years as political advisories, now standing on the same stage, signing their names on the same document. They called it a commitment to a national unity, a 10-point agenda to fix what ails Kenya, a new chapter. But in Kenyan politics, new chapters are rarely what they appear to be.
You will take the documents and please, you may take your seats. The two SGs, you will show our party leaders the pages to sign.
At the Kenyatta International Convention Center in Nairobi. On the 7th of March 2025, history was made, or at least that is what both sides wanted Kenyans to believe.
Now finally to invite His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya and the party leader of UDA to the stage.
President William Ruto of the United Democratic Alliance and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga of the Orange Democratic Movement officially signed a memorandum of understanding. It was a document premised in its own words on resolving the socio-economic and political challenges facing Kenya. The 10-point agreement was sweeping in its ambition. It pledged the implementation of a National Dialogue Committee report, the NADCO recommendations, which had been gathering dust since 2023. It promised to curb the government opulence, to fight corruption, and also to stop the abductions of government critics, to compensate victims of protest violence, and to create jobs for Kenya's restless youths. It read like a government reform charter. Raila himself was emphatic on what it was and what it was not.
Another round of applause for Baba wa kila mtu.
Haya. Kwa sasa, vijana hoe. Leo tumeweka sahihi kwa mkataba ya kuleta ulewano, ya kuleta amani, ya kupigana na maadui ya Wakenya wote.
I am pleased to announce the signing, as we've just witnessed.
President Ruto was equally measured, and he spoke of rising above political differences.
The signed provides a robust framework for that engagement.
Of a Kenya that all citizens deserved, and the language was careful, almost presidential in its restraint.
Aya. Nairobi hoye! Nawauliza watu wa Nairobi, munasema tuungane ama tutengane? Tuungane ama tutengane? Wale wanasema tuungane, jameni, nione kwa mkono.
But outside that hall, Kenyans were watching with a more familiar eye because they had seen this before. The question was not what had been signed. The question was what had actually happened. To understand what the Ruto ODM deal means, you first need to understand what Kenyan political agreements have historically been done. In 2008, after the post-election violence that claimed over 1,000 lives, Mwai Kibaki and Raila Odinga signed a power-sharing agreement under the African Union mediation. It stopped the killings and it crafted a grand coalition government, and it fundamentally reshaped Kenya's political architecture, giving Raila the Prime Minister's office and bringing the opposing sides into one tent. Ten years later, a different kind of agreement. In March 2018, sitting President Uhuru Kenyatta met his sworn political rival Raila Odinga at Harambee House. No document, no press release, just two men shaking hands on the steps of the president's office, and in doing so, reshaping the country's entire political landscape. It became simply known as a handshake, as it silenced the opposition. It also cooled a dangerous post-election atmosphere, but it also neutralized Raila Odinga as a presidential challenger, drawing him into the government's orbit and placing the political future of Kenyatta and Odinga on the same side of history. The pattern is consistent.
Another loud of
a period of tension.
What did you want to do? What did you want to do?
A dramatic public agreement. A narrative of national unity, and beneath that narrative, a restructuring of political power. In 2025, William Ruto and Raila Odinga added a third chapter to this story. But this time, the chapter was destined to be far shorter than either man anticipated. While receiving treatment in India, Raila Amolo Odinga, Kenya's most consequential opposition figure for 3 decades,
Raila Amolo Odinga,
the architect of ODM and a 5-time presidential candidate, and the man whose signature was still fresh on the KICC agreement, passed away. In his last public address in September 2025, Raila had told his party to hold to the cause, to honor the 10-point agenda, and to remain patient until 2027 before making any definitive political decisions. He will not live to see whether they listened.
Assume the office of the people's president.
Raila's death removed one figure capable of holding ODM's competing factions together. His personal authority, built over decades of political struggle, had been the glue binding the pro-government wing and the opposition-leaning wing of the party. Without him, the fractures that had been managed became open wounds. The deal that had been signed became, in a sense, his last political testament. And in like all testaments, different people read different things into it.
Kakamega oye! Hatutoroki leo. Zima hiyo kitu, mkutano iendelee. Zima hiyo kitu, mkutano iendelee. Hatutoroki leo. Hatutoroki leo. Hatutoroki leo.
By early 2026, the Orange Democratic Movement was fighting two battles simultaneously, one with the government over the terms of the MOU, and the other one with itself. The party had split into two identifiable camps, and the fault lines ran not along the tribal religion, but along a single defining question: what should ODM do with William Ruto in 2027?
Kakamega oye! Hatutoroki leo. Hiyo kitu, mkutano iendelee.
Kile ambayo Ruto amefanya ni kuua chama cha ODM. Ameua majaua. Ameua majaua. William Ruto! William Ruto! William Ruto!
The rivalry became visceral. Junet Mohammed and Edwin Sifuna exchanged sharp public barbs. Sifuna accused the pro-government faction of acting. The rivalry between them became visible. Junet Mohammed and Edwin Sifuna exchanged sharp public barbs. Sifuna accused the pro-government faction of acting against the party's constitutional provisions.
Right, economic
promoting and protecting the livelihoods of young people. Just today in your bulletin, Yvonne, and this is tied up with this other issue of stopping extrajudicial killings. We have police officers being accused in Kahawa West of torturing and killing 2 young people, stuffing maize.
The Wanga-led group accused retired President Uhuru Kenyatta of using Sifuna to undermine the party's agenda from within the party.
Acha nizungumze na ndugu yetu Rais mstaafu Uhuru Kenyatta. Tuko na heshima na yeye kwa sababu alikuwa rais wetu hapa. Na yeye vile alikuwa na sisi katika ile broad handshake government. Hatukuona akija hapa Homa Bay. Hakuna siku alikanyaga hapa Homa Bay. Nuneno kwa Uhuru biro Homa Bay ka. Nuneno chengo Uhuru no biro Homa Bay ka. Hii mambo yote imetendeka Homa Bay ni baada tuingie katika serikali ya broad base. Na mimi nataka niambie ndugu yetu Uhuru Kenyatta, tafadhali, sisi ni marafiki tu, lakini ikifika kuharibu chama cha ODM, kutuma mamluki, kusambaratisha chama cha ODM, hiyo tunasema tumekataa. Hiyo tunasema hapana. tafadhali usitume mamluki kuharibu chama cha ODM. Hapo tutakosana mbaya sana, and we will deal with the matter perpendicularly.
Now we want to transfer the power of ODM to His Excellency Dr. Senator Oburu Oginga Sai.
On the 27th of March 2026, the rupture became official. Delegates aligned with Oburu Oginga met at Jamhuri SK grounds and ratified his election as a party leader. The Sifuna section rejected the outcome entirely, challenging its constitutional legitimacy. The party tribunals dismissed Sifuna's cases on procedural grounds, but the political wound remained open. ODM, the party that Raila had built and led for over 2 decades, the vehicle for the Luo political aspirations and a pan-African progressive movement, was now functionally split. There are 2 ways to argue about this deal, and they lead to very different conclusions about Kenya's political future. The supporters of the deal argue that it was a genuine attempt to address Kenya's festering governance failures. The 10-point agenda, the NADCO implementation, anti-corruption measures and the protest rights, debt transparency addressed real documented grievances. Kenya had just witnessed the Gen Z's protest of 2024. Youth unemployment was critical. Public trust in institutions was a historic loss. The deal in this reading was not about power. It was about survival, and that was national survival. Critics offer a colder reading. Kenya's political history suggests that this agreement systematically benefits the incumbent. The 2008 deal gave Kibaki sustainability and a path to completing his presidency. The 2018 handshake neutralized Raila as a challenger and delivered Kenyatta a governable second term. By this logic, the 2025 MOU served Ruto re-elections project. It brought ODM into the government's orbit, stripped the opposition of its most credible leader, and created a built-in fracture within the only party capable of challenging the Kenya Kwanza in 2027. But there's a third interpretation, one that neither the government supporters nor its critics are entirely comfortable with. That both things are true simultaneously. That the deal was in good faith an attempt to stabilize the country, and it was also a strategic terms enormously advantageous for the incumbent president. That these 2 things are not contradictions in Kenyan politics. They are simply how power works here. For President Ruto, the picture looks on the surface advantageous. His principal opponent's party is fractured. The man who signed the deal with him is dead. The successor leadership is now divided between those who will openly back his re-election and those who will not. Any potential opposition coalition faces a challenge of rebuilding unity from within a party that has spent the past year publicly tearing itself apart. I am Ndambiri Yusuf.